Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. Manchester United versus Liverpool.
We've been here before,
Again. Again. There was a question that was asked like Danny does some intern for us, like, are you going to do another build-up show? It's like, we kind of have to just because the world's moved on a little bit, but I did have that thinking of like, is there any way that we could just go back in and dub in a few, like just ADR in a few little bits and pieces just to make it up to scratch? But no, we're here anyway. I'm Paul Machin, Ben Kelly joins me, John Machin and Ross Chanley line up the team for today. Yeah, it's mad. I mean, the one thing about this, Ben, it was a big game the other week. It's now an even bigger game.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we've just done the final word and we talked about the way that obviously the results kind of went for us a little bit the weekend. So suddenly the top four picture's changed and it's very much within our grasp. But it heavily relies on us winning this game of football, which is something that at Old Trafford we've not been very good at doing down the years. So we need to come out of this with 3 points. And they're going to know that it's integral to our season as well. And for them, the incentive is very much going to be let's try and put an end to Liverpool's title hopes. And by the way, I'm not saying that Man United are going to win the league. Manchester United play twice this week before City play on Friday. If they win both their games, they're only like 6 points behind City, I think. So, City are going to win the league, but it's also a chance for them to put just a little bit of pressure on them in the closing stage of the season as well. So
it's not like they're going to roll over and be done with it, because Solskjaer knows how important this game is and what he needs to do to make sure his job is safe for the long term and what have you. But also, not that United will win it, but they'll want to. Their aim is just to delay the party.
Close to them as possible,
delay the party and also make it because look, in terms of the Solskjaer conceit, Dad, the closer he can finish to Man City, the more it'll look like they were in an actual title race, and the more sated their fans will be with the season. Again, it's probably a slightly cynical view of it, but it is. Our point in this is ultimately they've got a lot of games to play, and you mentioned it on the final word. I can't see them doing anything but prioritising this over the Leicester game.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't United, I might feel sorry for Solskjaer, because everything he does is tainted by the fact that he's not Alex Ferguson.
Yeah,
he's not winning every title under the sun, and every fan they've got is desperate for them to find a manager who will actually start them winning titles again.
Yeah,
and he's now the closest they've ever been since Ferguson gave it up. And, the higher he can get and the more points he can get, the clearer he can get into second place, the better. But, by the same token, there's every chance he'll play a weakened side against Leicester, who are the closest to catching them in second.
Yeah.
If I was him, I'd be putting Leicester to bed rather than Liverpool.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's Liverpool, I suppose he can't really go into that game with a weakened side because he'll get lynched.
Yeah, well, it's true, isn't it? And and that's a possibility anyway, because they're going to be protesting, which we'll talk about in a minute. But just in terms of what it means, Ross, a win for Liverpool puts us on 60 points, which would put us into fifth, 3 points behind Leicester City on equal games, 4 points behind Chelsea. All teams then with 3 games to play. A win for United would put them 7 points behind Manchester City. Well, Manchester City, and of course, if they beat Leicester before that, as Ben says, it goes down to 4 points behind them. So it's just a massive game of football. Liverpool, Man United, for the first time in ages, it actually is a game where both teams have actually got a little bit more to play for. It's normally sort of one or the other, and there's a bit of needle just for bragging rights, but that's about it.
Yeah, there's quite the mood shift from the first build-up show we did for this game. I think it was just more like, oh, whatever, it's just a step closer to the season ending, and like, we're going to lose there anyway, it's all a bit shit. Whereas now, you're right, it's a win on Thursday night, like Ben says, is huge. It's just that door, I think, has been closed for the Champions League football for several weeks. And like every time that teams around us have lost, we've just shit it and we haven't capitalised on where we should have done. Leeds United the other week, there's another game since then as well that we haven't before. Newcastle, was the other one. And then I've been looking at Leicester's fixtures for the past 6 weeks, just looking at the last 3 that they've got. And at no point did they go Newcastle. And then as soon as that Newcastle game happened on Friday, I'm like, that door's still very much open for us, and it's all on Thursday night, because if we don't do it on Thursday night, then it is closed.
Well, it's one of those with the Leicester thing, Ben. It's in their hands. And it remains in their hands, and they've got the chance to define their season. Man United Tuesday, the FA Cup final on Saturday, and but this is where one of those situations when teams aren't at the absolute peak of their powers and they aren't the finished article, you do have little stories and little moments develop. There's a chance, and I would actually bank Leicester to probably win, to beat Man United, and then to make a good go with the FA Cup final. But that's a massive game looming. I think Johnny Evans is out already. They've got some of their own issues, and you end up in a situation where, again, it's massive. We talked about it already. I think a lot of Leicester fans, maybe this is just me reading between the lines on it, I think they'd be disappointed to finish outside the Champions League places again. Of course they would. But if you told them they traded up for a guaranteed FA Cup, I think a lot of them would go, okay, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. And I wish them all the best in the FA Cup final on Saturday. In the final 3 games of the league, fuck them. I hope they lose all 3, and that's what we need at the moment. I'll be very much Man United cap on Tuesday night, which feels really strange to say, because 48 hours later we're playing against them, and I hope we wipe them all over the place. But on Tuesday night we need them to do us a big favour, and it's a very, very strange situation that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been putting in that sense, and the way that game's been postponed. There was probably a more simpler way for the league to reschedule our game on Thursday. I think the way that we all saw it was that, we'll move our game against West Brom to Thursday or Wednesday or whatever, and then they'll put Liverpool Man United on the Sunday. But I think that Man United, I think that the league have very much put that game there to punish Man United a little bit, because they've now got this rampant schedule, which you could argue in the same way that the Super League stuff is like, well, that's not particularly fair on the players, not particularly fair on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but whether you like it or not, the club has to bear the brunt of it in some sense or form. So what it does is, what I'm saying is, he's got a very interesting decision to make on Tuesday night, because they won't necessarily want Leicester to finish above them. So because there's money at stake and all of that, and all of those things that go on. So how will Man United approach those games? You obviously got Cavani, who is a fantastic player, but can't play all 3 games. You've got even players like Bruno, because if Bruno gets himself injured, they've got a Europa League final coming up and all of that. So they're going into quite a key period of the season where they'll be warming up for that. So we've got to be careful.
That's my thing on this, is that, and we talk about this a lot, don't we, Dad? Especially in the last couple of weeks when we've been trying to G ourselves up for this run-in, is these teams this week, the team we're running down in Leicester and the team that we're going to be facing to help run them down in Manchester United, both have big finals ahead of them. And to my point before, is that it is hard not to have that in your mind. Do you commit fully to 50-50s? We're starting to see it already. Again, Harry Maguire's likely to be out this week. He picked up an injury at the weekend. And that just starts to play into mind. And that's what Liverpool's approach has got to be, I think, for this one, is that we've got to get in their heads. We've got nothing but this to play for. But you want to get to a position where they go, our bigger battle is actually going to come next week or the week after or whatever.
Well, I mean, they've got players who've never played in a cup final, and they won't want to miss out. And you can't tell me that they'll go into a 50-50 tackle as normal, 2 days before a cup, or a week or so for them before they play in the UEFA Cup final. And the same with Leicester. They've got a game on a cup final at the weekend, and they're going out to play Man United on the Tuesday night before. Are they going to give absolutely 100% in that game? I find it really difficult.
It's the 85th minute, and you're hurting, and you've got to make that one more big sprint. But you're also thinking, if I do something here, are you going to push yourself through the pain barrier? And they should do, and both of those teams should be, and they're both more than capable of doing it. But in terms of us just throwing some little threads out there that might play into our favour, it's definitely a possibility. The thing on Man United, Ross, look, they're not good enough to win the league, and I still stick by the fact that I don't think their manager's good enough to win them the league. I think we've seen this just in the turnaround in Chelsea, and he's clearly a better manager than Lampard. He's got more experience for the start, but when you get someone who's a brilliant manager in, what it can do to your fortunes is quite obvious. The thing United have got going for them is they've just got so much firepower. They've got so much attacking talent there, and and even when they're having a couple of issues around it, Greenwood comes in playing well. Cavani's coming in scoring goals. Rashford is absolutely amazing. I know Martial's out, isn't he? But you still got Bruno there. They've still getting something out of James periodically. That's what they're doing. They've just got enough. They've got goals in them, and that's where this is the problem that lies with this, is that they can just take a game away from us if they need to.
Yeah, they've had a good season, which I think bodes well for us in keeping Solskjaer on a job until next season when it all goes tits up, hopefully. But you're right. I think if we had match today right last night, it was 7 of the 11 played Roma, played yesterday, and they played really well against Aston Villa. But it's that thing of the comebacks as well, that mentality that they've got. I think it's 10 times now they've been behind it in Premier League games and they come back and they've won. That's massive. That was us. Yeah. Not last season, the season before. We're talking about going behind, playing till the final second and winning games. That's massive for them. And in terms of rotation for Leicester, I don't think they will, because momentum's the other thing that they've got. They're going to want to carry that on. A defeat can be as bad as an injury in some terms, especially when you're going towards either chasing first at this point, which they're currently still in, and Europa League. You still want to go into those games with winning mentality. So I don't think they will necessarily rotate. I think they'll be forced to because of Harry Maguire's injury. I think they're still waiting to see what happens with him on that. But Cavani's massive for them. When Cavani came in, I was like, he was just a last ditch buy because no one else wanted him. He was there for ages, and he's been brilliant. He's off the ball work, and his defensive work, I think, for them is phenomenal. The first thing he had to do yesterday was defend. He's fighting for the cause. But I think that mentality he's got is rubbing off on the Greenwoods and all the other players that weren't deemed good enough the season before.
Yeah, I'd say what's really funny about this, because we touched upon this on the Final Word show from the weekend, but this is the Premier League's two form sides going head to head here. I was astounded by that. It was something you brought up, Dad, when we were chatting yesterday. But Ben, it was a real shock to me to kind of look at the form table. Man United have taken 16 points from the last 6 games, 5 wins, 1 draw. We've taken 14 from that time. They've got a +8 goal difference that time. We've got a +7. It's top
of the table clash, bro.
It is, it's top of the table form clash, and it's come too late for us, in terms of what our real ambitions for the season. But I think, it's mad, because I think we've got we feel like we're in worse form because of the 2 late draws against Leeds and Newcastle, of course, and obviously getting knocked out of the Champions League. It feels like, you can't help but detach all those things. But if you were to go into a game against Manchester United, we're in as good a form as we could hope to be.
Yeah, and we and maybe hopefully their perception of us will be the same at the moment. They'll be going into the game maybe expecting to win. So I know certainly Man United fans are going into the game expecting to win. And I think with them, us going to Old Trafford has become a little bit like how Everton coming to Anfield used to be, where I never really feared Everton coming to Anfield. We just always beat Everton at Anfield like that. That's my mentality. But on the flip side, how many times down the years have Man United or an out of form Man United side come to an inform Liverpool at Anfield and just beaten us? The one that sticks out is the year that Mata scored twice and Gerrard got sent off. Liverpool weren't very good that season, 14-15, but they had gone on quite a little bit of a good run after Christmas, and we were building up a bit of momentum. Man United under Van Gaal were playing shite, and I think they'd been beaten by Tottenham the week before or something like that. They came to Anfield, they made a really good start, 1-0 up after 10 minutes. Gerrard gets in a 2-0, and then I think even the season after they did it, I think Klopp's first game against Man United at Anfield, Rooney scored late on. Man United for years have made a habit of being a bit rubbish, coming to Anfield and winning. We need to start doing the same. We need to be the ones who rock up to Old Trafford. Everybody's expecting us to lose, and we need to go and pull something out of the bag.
Yeah, no, and I've been saying this for a while. If Everton can come to Anfield and win, then we can go to Old Trafford and do the same. We had a super chat from Scott Hawks. Scott, as always, thank you so much, you wonderful human being. He says, hello from OMG o'clock. Do we expect anything other than bus parking and break with pace from them, especially if Maguire is a doubt? Solskjaer seems like a system found him rather than him driving change, in my opinion. I mean, Dad, you talk a lot. You've talked a lot in the last month or so about it's just the way to beat Liverpool has been pretty obvious, and I can't help but feel United are the best sort of team suited for that. They'll get men behind. Pardon me, they've got men behind the ball and they've got tons of pace on the counter-attack. He doesn't need to play grandiose football because there's no one in Old Trafford. Well, there might be, but they'll try because of last week. You never know. But yeah, in terms of supporters in the ground, they will follow this sort of template, won't they?
Yeah, I think that's crucial, the lack of fans, because, United fans want them to attack and attack and attack. They won't be happy watching them sit back, particularly against Liverpool. But Solskjaer, he would have to be daft not to look at that and think that's the way to beat us. But it's going to be interesting because, I think the last 4 games are all 0-0, the last league games, and it's only that cup tie which stands out. And I don't know whether it's going to be like the cup tie or like the league games, but yeah. Let's hope it's like the cup tie, because although we got beat, I think we played really, really well at a time when we were actually rubbish other than that.
Yeah.
So, that I'd really like to see us play like that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Right, we're going to be talking a little bit about Liverpool's approach, who we line up with, etc. After the break, but we do have a trivia question in the meantime. There are only 3 players who've played for both, who've also played in the Premier League. Name them.
My colleague David Ornstein wrote the story back at the end of March that Konate was, Klopp's top target in terms of defensive reinforcements in the summer, and I think we said then that talks were at a pretty advanced stage, and how it wasn't done, but we kind of expected it to get done, and I'm not aware that the situation has changed since then. Really, it's still not 100% done, because that conversation with Leipzig hasn't happened yet in terms of either negotiating the fee or just straight up paying his release clause, which is probably, what I think there's a realization that is probably what's going to have to happen. I don't really see Leipzig being prepared to let him go for anything less than that release clause. So yeah, I think clearly he's someone that Liverpool have had their eye on for quite some time. I think he fits the profile in terms of speed, aerial prowess, young, hungry, loads of potential to unlock. So yeah, I think he ticks a lot of the boxes for Klopp, Konate. So yeah, I think maybe probably after what's happened with a couple of deals in not too distant past, it's probably worth remembering it's not 100% done until he's actually wearing a Liverpool shirt, but Fekir had a Liverpool shirt on, and that still didn't happen. So yeah, let's wait and see. But yeah, certainly I'd be very surprised if that didn't happen this summer.
Yeah, we need to find out what's replaced the Melwood Lane. The AXA training ground Lane doesn't have the same sort of ring, does it?
Yeah. I wish I could tell you, but I haven't even been there yet. It's with obviously the bubble and the lockdown and stuff. It's it's been a long wait to step through the doors of that new plush building.
Hey, welcome back. Yes, you can check out my exclusive interview with the Athletic's James Pearce, streaming right now on the redmentv.com. Really interesting stuff. We talked a little bit about the meeting between SOS and FSG. There are actually plans for the follow-up meeting for that to happen this week, which will keep you abreast of when we know more. But yeah, a little bit of a chat around that and around the Ibrahima Konate rumours and the midfield goal-scoring issues, which have been alleviated ever so slightly by Thiago actually scoring a goal for us at the weekend. And the Mohamed Salah contract situation as well. Really, really interesting stuff, as always, from James. So yeah, go and check that out by subscribing to the redmentv.com right now. The trivia question was, there are only 3 players who play for both who've also played in the Premier League. I wanted you to name them. It's a little bit of a trick question because one of the players didn't play in the Premier League for either of those teams. So the obvious one, Ross Chanley, is
Michael Owen, which is the one I forgot.
Michael Owen is the obvious one in there. Anyone want to stab at the other one?
Paul Ince.
And Dad, can you think of any former Liverpool players who've also played for Manchester United?
No, they're just dead to me.
The answer wasn't this surprising.
Peter
Beardsley.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have got those.
Yeah, Peter Beardsley played for Manchester United in the early 80s, but then obviously played in the Premier League for Newcastle United. Right, there you go. If you got that in the comments, then you're an absolute genius. Give yourself a massive pat on the back. Okay, Ben, is it as simple as we were told that the injuries, the 4 fresh injuries at the weekend, were minor fitness issues. Kabak in particular. Yeah. Look, I know. This is where we're at. Kabak is not he's not the be all and end all. He's probably not the long term answer to Liverpool's centre back position. He might be. By the way, but he is better than. He's better than Reece Williams. We could really do with having him available for this game.
Yeah. Obviously going into the game last week, the game that wasn't played, we were sweating on the fitness of Phillips, and now obviously it's the other one. Yeah, you're right. Kabak. He's been fine. He lacks a little bit of pace, doesn't he? I mean, just ask Steve Ho what he thinks of him.
He's just on the wire.
But I think just having him in the side, a little bit more experience, a little bit of a calmer head, and I thought Reece Williams struggled away in the cup game. I would, obviously we'd like to have him involved. The Milner's the other one you've got here. Don't necessarily think Milner's as crucial, because if you've got Kabak in the side and you've got Fabinho ahead of them, you've got Gini, you've got Thiago, you've got Jones, you've got quite a selection of players there. For me, if you want to look at, do you have a wild card? Do you start somebody like Oxlade-Chamberlain? If you want to go and get the win, I think it all depends on what happens on Tuesday night between Man United and Leicester. I think if Leicester lose that one, it's not necessarily as crucial that we go and win this.
That's a good point.
It's a must not lose. It becomes a must not lose rather than a must win. But I think as a result of that, but if Leicester do go and win on Tuesday, that's where do you throw a wild card in and go and start somebody like Oxlade-Chamberlain who's a little bit more attack minded?
I wonder, because we don't know, Dad, how many of these lads were just were simply not available for the game, or how many of them are like, well, hang on, I don't want to run the risk of making sure they're not available for Manchester United. The Milner one, just my thinking on that. Obviously, he's in the starting 11 for this game when it's announced that last week he's in the initial 11 for that. And we talked about this at the game, what type of game it is. I think if I can get Milner in the midfield, I would be getting Milner in the midfield, just because of the amount of kicking he does and the amount of just aggro he brings to that team. I want him making their players question themselves, you know what I mean, and question their commitment to the cause. That's what James Milner brings, even though there might be other areas that you might have to compromise to get him in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to think he'll go with the side that he would have played in the first game, with Milner in, to be a little stronger, maybe to kick Fernandes around a bit and disrupt them. But it would actually be brilliant if Klopp just sprung a surprise and actually went all out to attack. That would be just so funny.
Yeah,
can't see it happening, but it would be fun.
Yeah,
you kind of played. You've almost. It's the same for them, but in regards to the team, you've shown your hand a little bit, haven't you, with the game last week? Because they would, again, we were sweating on the fitness in Nat Phillips, and they would have been maybe planning for Fabinho to play centre back, and now they know he's fit, so that they'll be changing their preparations for that. Obviously, Kabak's the other one now. They might not be sure whether or not Kabak's going to be fit, but by playing that game and and releasing the team news, you've given them more information. Now it's the same for us, but they've got probably more of an in-depth squad, and their situations change with the Leicester game on Tuesday. So to be honest, we're as in the dark as we were going into the game against Sunderland, because we don't know what team is going to play Tuesday. For me, I think it'd be daft not to play Cavani in this, because even though he's not as pacey and not as quick as Marcus Rashford. I mean, the mission Martial, but we could even play somebody like Dan James if we wants to go for the pace. But his intelligence against, particularly if Reece Williams played, I'd be worried about that. Just his movement is little. He's just he's one place and then suddenly he's gone. He's made a little darting run, and I think Solskjaer would be silly not to have the experienced Cavani and world class Cavani up against and challenging those two inexperienced centre backs.
Well, let's talk about it now. They might, none of these lads. This is the bad thing about them having a game between now and then, is that the landscape of all this could completely change. Absolutely. Not just on results, but in terms of fitness, the team that he picks and what have you. I think Liverpool, this is very much an example. You're right, where Klopp will probably wait to the last moment. Won't he, Ross? He'll have a rough idea. I think he'll have 9 or 10 decided, and some of that might be decided by who's actually available for us, but there might be one place that's just dictated by what he then thinks they'll do, because I think we did that for Southampton. I think we were more comfortable with Reece Williams playing a centre half, knowing that Danny Ings definitely wasn't going to be involved in that game.
Yeah, a lot of our games are won and lost in the middle of the park, and we've seen Fabinho what he brings, not just to the centre of the field, but he can help the defence out and helps us out with attacks as well. This is slightly different for me because you mentioned Man United's firepower already. You know, if Cavani's not playing, then Greenwood still frightens me. Rashford still frightens life out of me. Bruno Fernandes is still an issue. Yeah. So if Kabak's not playing, I'd be tempted to put Fabinho at centre half. Like, I really don't want to do that, but this is a case where you have to take it as you see it. Milner is a shout for midfield, but I'd also think Kurt Jones is in with a shout. Like, he was in really good form, and like, again, this is out because he just hasn't played. But you're looking at someone who's like, you know, a local lad who knows what it means to play against Manchester United. You know, he's fit. He's going to be fresh. He's going to want to go and play. I disagree on the must not lose game, by the way, as well, because I don't trust us to get 3 points against West Brom and Burnley. You know, our thought, you know, they're teams that we struggled against. So I think we have to go out with the mindset of we need 3 points in this game, with a view to maybe giving us a little buffer against the remaining 3. If that's the case, it should be all 4 and must win. But I'd like, you know, West Brom, like, another relegated, but Sam Allardyce is still a prick. He's still going to settle to infuriate us, isn't he? And the same with Burnley. Like, they're the template. They set the template of how to beat Liverpool. They're going to do that again. So I think we have to go in with this. If a team that's going to dominate the middle of the park was my point. You know, without Fabinho, I think will be the case unless Kabak's fit, then he plays. Even if he's a risk, I think he's still playing over Reece Williams.
Yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts, Dad? What's the midfield you're going for, given the freedom of choice?
I think it's what he would have gone with last time. I think it's Thiago and Fabinho and Milner. When I saw the heat maps for the Southampton game, Thiago and Fabinho were almost identical. You couldn't tell who was the 6 and who wasn't. Yeah. And Wijnaldum, if anything, you know, was less active and noticeable on the pitch. Although, again, quite deep at times. I think Milner will give you a bit more energy and be around the pitch a lot more. Yeah. If that's, again, if you want to go strong, but it does really depend on who United play on Tuesday, what result they get, and who, if any, is injured.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the points that was interesting, just to stick with you, Dad. You know, Errol brought this up on the Final Word show about Man United starting slowly, but they're very good at coming strong late on in games. Now, that will be diminished by the volume of football they're playing, of course, and I wonder whether that's an impact on us. What we need to have is enough firepower to get the game in a strong position for us, but to make sure that we've got legs come the final 10, 15 minutes. Someone like Curtis Jones is, you know, again, it's whether he's a good one to start the game, or is he someone you bringing on just to give a little bit of extra zip or whatever?
Well, Curtis and Oxlade-Chamberlain, he looks like he's got his pace back from what I've seen.
Yeah.
He'd be a really good asset late on in the game, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be it's fascinating, just absolutely fascinating. I'm just looking forward, Ben, to just a game that, again, we need to feel feelings. You know, having a game that matters. It's every game's become a cup final. I agree to Ross's point in reference to your point. I think I think Klopp will think the way that you're thinking. If the Leicester game goes in our favour, we'll still try to win it. Yeah, but I don't how gung ho we go towards winning it. You know, how much we chase that game will be interesting but also from our fans' perspective, I get Ross's point. I feel the same. I don't think beggars can afford to be choosers at this point. I think if we're thinking, we won't go all out for this game, but it's okay because we're going to get 9 from 9 in the final 3, is a little bit of a dangerous mindset too.
It's probably a bit naive. But you know, I just think based on the context of the game, I just don't enjoy going away to Manchester United. I don't think the players do. I don't particularly want to. I'm just not one that I have any confidence in us getting anything. And you know, maybe with Man United's schedule, and no fans and everything, you know, the stars are aligned, and this might end up being our best chance to do it. But like, down the years, I've always felt like, there's been plenty of games where I felt like we've had good opportunities at winning at Old Trafford, and we just never have. So until they begin to do that, then I'm not going to be particularly.
Last year it was we were ready, we were primed. Yeah. We were there with our 6 balloons and everything ready to go. Ready to that and then go and win the league, and then we did. Okay, VAR questionable the usage or whatever got in the way a little bit, but we were crap. The thing about this, Ross, the fan protest stuff. There's protests organised by Man United fans on Thursday as well. They're going to try. I don't think there will be an official attempt to enter the ground again, but then again, there wasn't really last time. It was a kind of people went with the flow or whatever. They will do. I don't think they'll get anywhere near Old Trafford. There'll be loads more police and there'll be loads more barricades. There'll be loads more. But the point is, I think psychologically that affects Man United and Man United's players more than it's ever going to affect ours. And there's also the slim possibility if they get the game stopped again, they'll have no choice but to give us the 3 points. So kind of win-win, destabilise the Man United team, and at worst we just get given the points. I can live with that.
I'm tempted to go down myself.
Yeah, let's all do it. Yeah,
it's a game if you don't play it.
Yeah.
Let's all go join in. Yeah, it's a mad one, isn't it? Like, if there are plans to go and do that, I think I agree. They're going to be loads of police. They won't get anywhere near the gap. But like, don't stay at the hotel. Have decoy buses. Do be clever about things, or it's
they will. They will do. There's no way what happened last time will ever be allowed to happen again.
No, but they want to vent the frustrations, and that's fair enough. But at some point, you think you're right. The mentality of Manchester United players will be, for fuck's sake, do you know what I mean? We want to get this game played. We want to get.
They're going to be on high alert. That's the point about this. Is that they exist apart, but no matter what things get put in place, it depends how antagonistic that is as well. And how motivated people are to stop that. If Man United fans use the same level of intensity they did on several of the Old Trafford doors and the situation that they're facing down with this, and this is not me condemning what they did, by the way. Go on, Dad.
Ross is right. They won't get anywhere near Old Trafford. And if they've got any sense, they'll actually turn up on Tuesday instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they're not expected.
Yeah, that's it. Like the Spanish Inquisition.
But
that's it. But the thing that we're kind of hoping for is the Man United fans, the Man United players will be sat around going, they'll have been getting told it's fine, just keep your focus on. But it's an unknown, and all it takes is something to break through, and that's you've got that kind of thing hanging over them. I hope it plays to our advantage, and I hope United fans get what they want. I hope they do get to have the demonstration that they want, that's effective to a level that they want it to be. Because I think obviously they've having a tough time with their owners and all that kind of stuff, and we'll always support the right to protest, particularly if it's going to leave football in a better place, of course. But yeah, it's just going to be an interesting side story again. The cameras are going to be there. They're going to be ready for it. The police are going to be ready for it, and it's how the Man United protesters go towards it as well. How do they rise to meet that sort of situation? We shall see. Let's have some score predictions. Ben, what do you think?
I hate this question. 0-0.
Okay. Ross?
Records are made to be broken. 1-0 Liverpool.
Yeah. Dad?
Tricky, as I said before, it's just 0-0, but there was that cup game where, we both wanted to win and had to win. So, I'm going to go with that 3-2 to us.
Great, yeah. I think if we're going to win, it's going to be horrible. I think every game, if we get a top 4, it's going to be horrendous.
It'd be nice if we got a penalty in the last minute, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, wouldn't it just? Mo Salah to run up and smash it down the middle. I'm up for that. I think it's going to be 2-1. I think it'll be one of them. It's going to be horrendous. We're going to be bitten fingernails down to the quick for the final moments, things flashing across the face of goal as we defend for our lives. But yeah, I'm going with that. Let us know yours in the comments section. What midfield would you go for? Any other surprises in terms of lineup? Would you just go 4-2-4, put the big lads on up front and go for goals? Chris will be doing a start 11 prediction a little bit later in the week, so do check that out, of course. And yeah, if you want to get the full James Pearce interview, it is streaming right now on the redmentv.com. 2 tiers for you guys. If you just want the content, you can get that, and access to the full suite of Liverpool content we've got on there: documentaries, features, interviews, and a whole lot more, as well as bonus Redmen TV content. content. But if you want more than that, like free merchandise, discounts, free tickets to live events, which are coming back soon, and a host of amazing things like access to our Discord group, which is full of wonderful people talking about football and not knobheads like most of the internet is. And I'm sure you've probably noticed people watching this live, the live comments. But yeah, you can get involved with that as 2 tiers. Go and check it out on redmentv.com. We hope to see you there. Oh yeah, we'll be back for a watch along on Thursday night. Ta-ra. Thank you so much for watching the Redmen TV YouTube channel. Everything we do here is funded by our wonderful subscribers to the redmentv.com. Get over there, sign up and get amazing additional content, interviews, documentaries, mini-series, and of course additional pre and post match day content.